I was halfway through my second coffee, reviewing fraud anomalies for a logistics client, when my phone rang. It was Chelsea. My wife of over 20 years. The woman I built a life with, shared savings, dinner schedules, dreams of early retirement on the Gulf Coast. I want a divorce. I've found someone who makes me feel alive again. No warning. No arguments. Just that. Then another message came, even colder. I transferred our savings to my account. You can keep the house. She thought I would break down. Maybe beg. Maybe panic. Instead, I opened my laptop and logged into the system I had spent years building, a system designed to track every dollar of financial wrongdoing against us. What didn't she know? Her betrayal had triggered a federal fraud investigation. By the time she realized what she had done, it was too late. And that text message? It didn't just end our marriage. It exposed a corporate crime ring and sent her straight to a federal prison cell. Chelsea always said I was too cautious. Paranoid, she would joke when I checked our tax returns for the third time or ordered another credit report to ease my mind. She called me her human firewall, as if it were cute. I didn't mind. In fact, I was proud of it. Some people throw money into a box and hope for the best, but I liked knowing where every penny went. My name is Josh. I'm 46 years old. I've spent most of my life working in finance, specifically in risk management and fraud detection. For most people, it's a boring job. But it paid the bills and, as I couldn't have imagined, ultimately saved my future. Chelsea and I met in high school. She was the kind of girl who got attention in every hallway. Blonde hair, a laugh that filled the room, blue eyes that could make you forget your name. I was a quiet guy. I sat in the back row with a calculator clock and a 3-ring binder for each subject. I never thought I had a chance, but somehow we got close. She liked that I made her laugh. I liked that she could talk to anyone and make them feel like the most important person in the world. We got married at 24, bought a small house near Raleigh, and started building a life together. She worked in marketing, networking events, conferences, talking to important people. She moved fast and talked even faster. Me? I loved spreadsheets. I loved rules. Over the course of a few years, I created a personal finance system for us based on the one I used for my clients. Nothing complicated. Just a smart combination of our accounts, pension, checking, savings, investment. A clean dashboard, categories labeled with different colors, and alerts for any unusual events. It wasn't that I didn't trust her. It was just a habit. Muscle memory. It turned out that habit can be a kind of armor. It happened on Wednesday morning. A normal morning. Coffee in my left hand, keyboard in my right, I was running a series of checks for anomalies for a client in the logistics industry who hadn't received payments from suppliers. And then I got a message from her. I want a divorce. I've found someone who makes me feel alive again. I stared at the screen for what must have been 20 seconds. I just read and reread it, as if blinking would change everything. But nothing changed. My stomach clenched. It felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. My wife, with whom I had lived for 21 years, had ended our marriage with one sentence. No arguments. No warnings. Then came the second message. I transferred our retirement accounts to my personal fund. You can keep the house. I don't need it anymore. At that moment, the wheels started turning in my head. I opened my laptop and logged into our control panel, the very one she had seen me create, the one I had shown her hundreds of times. She didn't know or had forgotten that all our accounts were filtered through a system I had developed. Transfers exceeding a certain limit triggered an alert. Withdrawing pension savings? Double authentication was required. Unusual behavior? It was recorded and flagged. She tried to transfer a 6-figure sum from our retirement portfolio, probably thinking she could do it in one go. A clean break. She probably thought I wouldn't notice until it was too late. What really happened? The system blocked the transfer before the money could reach the account. Alarm bells went off. First from our retirement company. Then from the bank. Then from the secondary institution through which she was trying to transfer the money. Frozen. Blocked. Under review. You see, federal systems don't care about feelings or marriage vows. They care about authorization schemes, account behavior, and threshold values. She had pulled every string I had strung together. I sat and watched it all unfold in real time. All the color-coded cells flashed yellow, then red. Every account she touched was the same story. Funds frozen. Investigation initiated. And me? I didn't yell. I didn't respond to her messages. I just sat there and breathed. Calm, which surprised even me. Chelsea thought she had outsmarted me. She thought she could break up a 20-year relationship and disappear with the money as if it belonged only to her. Every dollar we saved passed through my hands, checked and double-checked. And now the very system she laughed at every tax season? She blocked it before I could lift a finger. She lost the moment she made her first move. After the messages on Wednesday, I didn't call. I didn't say a word, except for one message. I hope you're happy. That's it. 7 words. No yelling, no begging, no arguments. If she thought I would break down and flood her phone with desperate messages, she didn't know me as well as she thought she did. I went back to work. Just like every other day. I'm not a dramatic person. I don't slam doors. I don't throw things. I don't make threats. When the ground is pulled out from under my feet, I don't start screaming, I start calculating. So for the next couple of days, I checked all the alerts on my system and made sure that everything she was trying to touch was locked up tighter than a bank vault. Pension funds. Investment portfolios. Even our emergency savings account. She triggered every alarm I had built into the system. She had nothing left to grab onto. Every dollar she thought she had taken with her. Frozen in midair. I didn't contact her. I didn't even want to. I knew she would call eventually. Not because she missed me. Not because she changed her mind. No, she would call because her plan had failed. Because the money she thought she had stolen was gone. The call came on Friday morning. At 11:32, to be exact. I was in my office, as usual, drinking coffee and reviewing customer compliance reports. The phone rang. I knew it was her without even looking at the screen. Something inside me just knew. I picked up the phone. I didn't say a word. "Josh," she said quickly and tensely, "my card isn't working." She didn't even say hello. That alone told me she was panicking. I just tried to check my balance, and it's 0. I transferred the money. I transferred everything yesterday. What the hell is going on? Her voice changed. The smugness disappeared from her text. This was the Chelsea I knew in my youth, when she burned dinner and tried to blame it on the oven, but her voice trembled and it was clear she knew she was to blame. I took a sip of coffee. A quiet pause. Let her sit with that for a moment. "Yes," I replied evenly. "You triggered the fraud protocol." "What does that mean?" "It means that retirement accounts cannot be emptied without confirmation from both parties. Especially when there are signs of unauthorized activity. The bank has frozen all funds. They are required to do so by law." There was silence on the line. Long, heavy. I could almost hear her trying to decide whether to scream or stay calm. "So when will I be able to access the account?" 5 to 7 business days, I replied. "Maybe longer if they find any violations." Still no answer. "Chelsea?" Silence. Then the call ended. She didn't say goodbye. She just hung up. I leaned back in my chair and looked out the window. The neighborhood looked the same. The trees hadn't changed. Birds were still jumping around in the backyard. Cars still drove by. But I felt different. Something inside me had broken into pieces. It wasn't anger. To be honest, it wasn't even grief. Just a hollow realization. For 21 years, I had carefully built our life. I kept neat, detailed accounts, protected our finances. I wasn't wasteful. I didn't throw money around. I was stable. I built our future step by step. And the woman I did it all for turned around and tried to destroy it all with a few clicks of a mouse and a text message. I picked up the phone. I called William Brooks. He's a local lawyer. He used to be a banker, then switched to law. We met a few years ago when he helped my sister untangle a complicated real estate mess. This guy knows numbers as well as I do. "Josh, is everything okay?" he asked.
"Not really," I replied. "I need to talk to someone about a divorce. And possibly some financial shenanigans." That got his attention. "Want to come in on Monday?" "No. I'll come in today." After that, I gathered all the documents I had kept about our finances, physical copies, printed statements, system logs. I even exported fraud alerts from the software I had built. I wasn't going to come in with stories and tears. I was going to come in with proof. The more I thought about it, the more grateful I was for the years of habits she had called excessive. Systems. Backups. Logs. Everything she had shrugged off was what had kept her from walking away with our future. I pulled up to William Brooks' office. He came out to meet me. We shook hands, and he led me into his office. Leather chairs, a dark wooden desk, a small bookcase with legal texts, and several framed certificates. Nothing fancy, but professional. It inspired confidence. I put the folder on his desk and said, "I think I need to file a lawsuit." He sat down, opened the folder, and began leafing through the tabs. He took his time. He studied each page carefully. I watched his expression closely. He showed no emotion, but from time to time he nodded slightly or raised an eyebrow, as if mentally confirming his suspicions. After about 15 minutes, he leaned back in his chair and looked at me. "You didn't stop her," he said. "The system did." Then he smiled slightly, half impressed, half surprised. "She tried to deceive you. It's simple. There's no point arguing about intentions. Actions are what matter. You need to file the paperwork. Today." I nodded. "Let's do it." The paperwork wasn't complicated. We did everything right. I wasn't looking for revenge. I just wanted the truth on record and the property divided according to the law. William advised us to report the attempted transfer as a financial crime. The court would take it seriously, especially since we had proof. Later that day, I changed the locks. Not because I thought she would come back, but because it seemed like the final step. Something definitive. I went through all the rooms, gathered her things, clothes, cosmetics, work files, and packed them neatly into boxes. I felt no bitterness. I just wanted it all to be gone. I didn't touch our joint account. There was about $3,000 in it. Let her have it. I wasn't going to argue over a few $1,000s, not after she tried to take hundreds of thousands. It would be enough for a hotel or whatever she was planning to do now that her plan had failed. By Sunday evening, the house felt different. Not quieter, just calmer. It was silent, even though it seemed empty. I made dinner as usual. I ate alone at the table. I watched the news. Before going to bed, I checked the notifications on the control panel again. Nothing new. Everything was in its place. On Monday, there was another knock. It wasn't a physical sound. No one was at the door. It was more of a sense of change, the realization that this wasn't just betrayal. It was something deeper. More structural. You see, I've always been a planner. A detail-oriented person. Chelsea was a whirlwind. She knew everyone by name at the grocery store, made people laugh at parties, could charm anyone at any gathering. I loved that about her. In some ways, I still do. But when I sat down at my desk on Monday morning, something started gnawing at me. A question I wasn't ready for yet. Why hadn't I noticed this before? Not just in translation. I mean her Her change. The way she started treating me like background noise. The late nights that didn't line up. The way she stopped asking about our savings goals. The last time she hugged me, it was more out of habit than out of care. I noticed it. Of course I did. But I chalked it up to stress. She had a demanding job. She was traveling more. And I always relied on logic. I thought that with time, we would grow closer again. That the quiet period would pass. But it didn't. Instead, she came up with a plan. A plan that included disappearing with everything we had built. And the worst part? She almost succeeded. Almost. If I hadn't created those protocols. If I hadn't structured our finances like a vault. If I hadn't paid attention to details that didn't matter to anyone else. She would have left, and I would have woken up one day in an empty house with zero in my bank account. That morning, I opened her old mailbox. She hadn't changed the password, probably forgetting that it was still linked to our family domain. I wasn't trying to spy. I just needed to understand. And what I found wasn't dramatic, it was cold. Calculated. Messages about deadlines, bank details, backup plans. She wasn't impulsive. She was prepared. The woman I married had become someone else. Or maybe she had always been this way, and I just hadn't noticed. Either way, the truth was knocking at my door. And I opened it. I expected resistance from her. I just didn't expect it to be so weak. On Tuesday, William sent me a scan of a legal statement filed by Chelsea's lawyer. Patricia something or other, I recognized the name from several events in our neighborhood. She was always the loudest at the neighborhood parties. She talked about creative legal strategies and workarounds as if that made her smarter. Well, her grand strategy was this: claim that I had manually frozen our financial accounts to sabotage Chelsea's access to joint funds during the divorce. It would be funny if it weren't so ridiculous. William called me as soon as he read it. He didn't sound angry, more amused. She's trying to prove emotional misconduct. That you used your financial knowledge to get revenge. I replied, but the system is automatic. Exactly. It's not even a good bluff. Don't worry. The judge will sort it out. And he did. We presented the logs, timestamps, alert triggers, validation errors, federal system flags. Nothing had been changed manually. Everything had happened exactly as planned, I hadn't lifted a finger. The court dismissed the motion almost immediately. That should have been the end of it. But instead, a real spiral began. Late on Wednesday evening, my work phone rang. I didn't recognize the number. I answered anyway, mostly out of curiosity. On the other end was a man who identified himself as Alan Murphy, Director of Operations at Marlin & Gray. It was Chelsea's firm. His voice was polite, but I could hear the tension. It was as if he wasn't sure whether this was going to be a casual conversation or a serious discussion. "Mr. Harper," he began, "I'm sorry to have to contact you this way. I understand that you and Chelsea are in the process of getting a divorce." I replied that I was.